And sometimes it doesn't matter what I think. It doesn't matter what you think. It doesn't matter what I feel. It doesn't matter what you feel. A huge part of my philosophy is like, it matters what we all feel. Like it's a collective input that helps guide us what social etiquette is. And that means relating etiquette, and that also means non-mono relating as well. So knowing what I know about me, you, people, how we'd expect to treat and be treated, who was the one that was most out of sync. Now that sounds very like warring, us versus them, but it's not meant to be. It's just a way of checking in. It's like, am I within the realms of what we'd expect to be tolerable about how we conduct ourselves in a loving partnership?
Welcome to Normalizing Non-Monogamy, the podcast where we interview incredible people from all over the world to hear their personal journeys of self-discovery through the lenses of love, sex, and relationships.
Our mission is to show people that they're not alone and to inspire them to embrace their true selves so that together we can open minds and live authentically without shame.
We believe everyone's story is powerful and beautiful, yet it's important to remember that everyone does life a little bit differently and that the views and opinions expressed by our guests do not necessarily reflect our own.
Additionally, we aren't doctors. Please consult a medical professional for anything regarding your health that you might learn about on the show. Enjoy!
Welcome to episode 448. We're Finn and Emma, and today we have a fascinating interview with Ryan. Ryan is a relationship theorist and counselor who started exploring non-monogamy for himself a little over a decade ago. Throughout our conversation, Ryan seamlessly weaves together his own personal journey with his work and research as he shares about his relationship experiences and then breaks down the lessons he's learned about himself, relationships, and connecting with others.
Yeah, we talk about it a bit in the interview, but I think one of the things that we've learned over the years is that we learn so much about relationships, or so much of what we learn about relationships can really only be learned through relationships. And I think that means we have to make a lot of mistakes. Something I'm not great at accepting. And
that's hard. It's hard.
And we experience a lot of heartache along the way. And that's not to say Ryan has made a ton of mistakes, but I do love this conversation, and I love how Ryan talks about his experiences and everything he's gone through. And then he dives into what he thinks was going on for himself, what he's learned, and what he would do differently. And then what we can all take away from it. So yeah, this is just such a great conversation, and super grateful to Ryan for reaching out and for coming on today. And as Emma said, Ryan is a counselor and relationship theorist, so you can learn more about him and his work over on his website, ryanminty.com, which is linked in the show notes. But wait, there's more.
There's more.
Ryan is also an author and is currently in the middle of publishing a book. He just announced his Kickstarter to help with publishing costs, and you can find the link to his Kickstarter in the show notes as well.
But wait, there's even more.
No way, there's more?
Ryan sticks around to answer some bonus questions for our premium subscribers. If you're not familiar, our premium subscribers get ad-free podcast episodes, plus a new 10 to 15-minute bonus episode every week where our guests answer some fun extra questions and gives us an opportunity to get to know them even deeper than we do during our regular interview. You can sign up on the homepage of our website at normalizingnonmonogamy.com for just $4 a month. And if you do it right now, you don't just get to listen to our bonus conversation with Ryan, you also get to access to all of our past bonus conversations as well.
And with that, it's time to jump right into the interview with Ryan for all of our premium subscribers. And for everybody else, we've got some fun announcements. We're going to keep them super fun today.
Super fun.
Or at least super short. One of the two.
First up, we wanted to remind all of you about our community. We lead a community full of over 300 people socializing and supporting one another every single day. We host the community on a platform called Mighty Networks, and we have monthly community support Zoom calls, monthly virtual workshops, and in-person events as well, all for less than $10 a month. Our next virtual workshop,
that's coming up tomorrow.
Is tomorrow.
If you're listening to this on the day it came out. So our next workshop is tomorrow, June 11th, and it is called Beyond I Do, Legal Agreements to Protect Non-Traditional Families. This workshop is led by Becky Calloway, who is a queer, non-monogamous attorney and mediator in the San Francisco Bay Area. They work with queer, poly, and other non-traditional families and allies. And we actually just interviewed Becky a week ago. That interview will be coming out in a few weeks. So Stay tuned for that. But again, tomorrow you can join us for the workshop with Becky. You can learn more about joining our community and all of the workshops over on our website, normalizingnonmonogamy.com. Click on the community tab and you'll learn everything right there. And one other thing we thought we'd tell you about the community, one of the perks that you get when you join the community is access to the premium subscription, which we talked about earlier. So you could get ad-free listening on top of everything else we said.
Plus, and the bonus
plus those bonus episodes. You get a lot when you join our community. So save yourself a lot of hassle. Go do it right now. We'll wait for you.
Next up, we want to remind all of you about our favorite way to get tested for STIs. It is stdcheck.com. This is a service Finn and I use. We've been using it for years. It is fast, easy, and discreet. And when you use the links on our website, you get $10 off, making a 10-panel test only $129. To find those links, go over to our website, normalizingnonmonogamy.com, and click on the resources tab.
And with that, I think we just need to tell you all that we would love to hear from you. If you have any questions, feedback, comments, or best of all, if you'd like to come on the podcast yourself to share your story, we would love to have you. You don't need to be a relationship theorist or a counselor or a coach or anything other than yourself, because the whole point of this podcast is to share as many stories as we can so we all feel a little bit less alone as we do this crazy thing called relating.
Yeah.
And living and humaning. So with that, you can head over to the Contact Us tab of our website. Send us an email. We'll make it happen. We'd love to hear from you. And now, without any further ado, it's time to talk to Ryan.
Let's go.
Welcome to the podcast, Ryan. We're really excited to chat today. You reached out a couple months ago. We finally made it happen, so thanks for your patience. But we're excited to chat today, learn a little bit more about your story and your work and how those two are woven together at this point. So yeah, thanks for being here. Welcome to the podcast.
Thank you, you two. Pleased to meet you as well. I'm glad that you picked up the phone when I reached out. I was really inspired by your work, and if I've got a story to share, then let's do it.
Yeah, perfect. Well, don't tell people there's a phone. We don't answer very often. But
Me neither.
Well, yeah. Well, let's just jump into it. Maybe just start with an introduction. Like who is Ryan and what inspired you to reach out to come on?
Sure.
What inspired you to call us?
Yeah, my name's Ryan Minty. I'm a relationship theorist and counselor in London. And you've probably never heard that term before. And I'm not going to liken myself to Esther Perel, with whose work I'm sure you're familiar with, but she pictures herself as like a relationship philosopher. But it's effectively that. It's developing models and modalities and frameworks behind which people can rally to help navigate themselves and their relationships and grow more happy and sustainable in really anything. But I sort of categorize everything into the 6 pillars of life as a trainee psychotherapist, and these being wealth, health, family, and also community, friends, relationships, and your legacy. Right. So these things, my models speak mainly towards relationships, and those can mean friends and family and partners. And we'll go into, I think, if you want me to, a bit more about what those are and how I conduct my work with people who are normally reaching out just for some guidance, either because they've been thrown in the deep end of a non-monogamous situation, or because they're exploring of their own volition and curiosity.
Yeah, I love it. Well, I appreciate you sharing a little bit about that. And I'm curious what your sort of inspiration to go down this path for non-monogamous folks was. Is this part of your life? What does your relationship ecosystem maybe look like today?
Okay. Well, I could give you a chronological rundown, but
Let's do it.
Or you can do a high level overview right now, and then let's do it.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
Well, this is the thing. I can talk at length, and that's partly what I do is I write as well. And a lot of my frameworks and certainly stories are inspired by my recent past. And by recent, I mean 12, 13, 14 years ago, I moved to London from the north of England and booted up apps for the first time in my life and realized there was a bit of a playground, even before you start talking about whether you're able to connect with one person at the same time as another or love one person at the same time as another. It was just, there was so much more choice. That's part of what comes with being in a modern metropolis, right? So I eventually learned to effectively, and I teach this to my clients as well, ask for what I want. And that effectively means what feels natural to me. And when am I betraying urges? When am I betraying my cultural, familial, or religious programming? When am I betraying my sort of animalistic lustful, let's be quite explicit, tendencies.
Mm-hmm.
And why? Like, what am I compromising them for here? What's the true me? Yeah.
Mhm.
And so, Tinder was my first,
A
portal.
good test of all those things.
Yeah. Yeah. And you said this was like 10, 12 years ago?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
So it'd probably been around for a long time, but I'd never been on a dating app before. I ended up in a city with no partner, no job, actually, no money, and no friends. So Tinder was actually how I learnt to meet Londoners, right?
Yeah.
It's basically LinkedIn.
A very different set of profile photos on it,
Yeah.
as the meme goes, right? And so, yes, I got into relationships, and just the monogamy aspect just wasn't working. And that's going to sound like I've cut a lot of corners and say I just wanted to sleep around and and be naughty. But no, I think if I was tuning into myself and listening to these desires to get to know people that weren't the person I was connecting with and dating with the prospective, view to form a life with them as a romantic primary partner, I was attracted to ideas of being intimate with people. And it didn't mean that I had the same kind of relationship that I did with my primary partner, but just couldn't really align with them through words or even without words. I think sometimes, to be honest, I didn't have the skill set to have that conversation, to say, what are you feeling here about how you quite understandably look at and are looked at by other people that we interact with? Young, red-blooded, hot-blooded people, warm bodies, right?
Mhm.
So it's really just that creeping realization that maybe I don't have to pigeonhole myself into a certain expectation.
Yeah. And had you had this feeling at all previous to moving to London?
I think we're all very naive if we say we'd gone through all of what you would call high school and college, or we would say like prep college and
Yeah.
secondary school and university, without thinking, oh, but if I choose this partner,
Mhm.
I'm therefore foregoing other
Yeah.
options, right?
Yeah.
Because that's instilled in us, as I say, because the more we know about, the human situation, different ways of being, old ways of being, and trans-global ways of being, and we'll talk more about the research behind this later, is that this is instilled in us for better or for worse, right? And it's not the whole picture anyway.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so,
Okay, I can keep going my
Yeah.
story.
Yeah.
I'm not doing the overview very well. I'll pick up the pace.
That's okay.
You're
That's
good.
okay. We're
But,
diving in. We're diving in.
So my relationships were getting to 6 months, and
Mhm.
I teach my clients now a lot about the stages of a relationship. I think it's called there's a different modalities, but there's a couple of famous ones. But it's around 6 months, the honeymoon period wears off, and you get into what's called a power struggle phase.
Mhm.
Shortly before the sort of harmonious bliss phase. But anyway, the power struggle is where you're sort of like meeting out how much you're willing to change or compromise or meet the other person, and what your real value system, once the first dating stage ambassador of self has kind of worn down, and you have to be a lot more vulnerable and open with your partner. And we just really weren't managing to align on the monogamy thing. So the relationships fizzled out until I met an amazing girl, actually from New York. And I'll give the names that I provide in my articles and my writing, which are not real names, but let's go with Yolanda. And she had just gone out of a 9-year marriage with a Italian chap that she met at Berkeley. She was studying in California, and it was like a college love. But as with a lot of relationships that people enter that sort of stage in their lives, 18, 19, 20, 20, 22, that kind of thing, they don't get a full sexual exploration period. And so that's always left sort of in the back of their mind and like not fully explored. So often when their long-term relationships do break down, they then reaccess that younger, more playful and curious side of themselves. And it was sort of good timing with me because I just learned how to effectively ask for what I want as well. We were very much in love. We fell in love very quickly. And it just so happened that we had a very conscious and direct conversation about, are you okay with continuing to date other people as I am, and vice versa. I'm okay with you dating other people. It became a very conscious conversation. As Logan Ury says, who's the sort of dating research head of Hinge, and she's done plenty of podcasts and has a book called How Not to Die Alone. It's a very on-the-nose title for a book. I think she still works at Hinge. She says, decide, don't slide. And that's one of the key things I talk to my clients about as well, is that you can't assume, well, there are some things you can assume about a relationship and the direction it's going, but it's just safer to perhaps have a conscious, limited conversation.
Yeah.
And so we did. I remember that. It was very fruitful. And it's not easy, right? Anyone who conducts an open relationship, because we were romantically closed, and we'll talk about the definitions of that later if that's useful. It's not easy, like to a lot of it is imagination, but some of it is anecdotal. When your partner comes back, it's up to you to ask or wait to be told, if that's important for them to share what your partner was doing when out on a date. But something I work on with my clients as well is this idea of data collection. I think even with a new partner, even if you've been doing non-mono open for a long time, with a new partner, you don't know what the trend is. You don't know how safe you are until that person comes back to you at the end of the night, at the end of the week. And then eventually over time, you start to deal with the inevitable threat response that's happening for you. And you sink into a new rhythm of comfort, trust, and honoring the very conscious conversation that I referred to before about letting each other be who you truly feel like.
Yeah, when maybe that stability or that sense of security isn't coming from I'm the one and only, you're the one and only, we do everything together, but you have to go through the reps of like, okay, you went out, oh, you came back, oh, you went out again, oh, look, you came back, like that, just a feeling it.
Yeah. And even if you don't realize that's what's happening, I'm sorry, but it's just that repetition of risk and reward. And everyone has a comfort zone. We should challenge ourselves safely to push it. And sometimes it means they're going out suddenly now 2 times a week rather than 1 with someone else. Or they've got this partner that is a threat because they are different to you in some way, like better in some, I'm sure, and not so good in others. But it's just a new dynamic that you're not so sure about. But again, when you're rewarded for that pushing that boundary of yourself, even if it's just about a sort of not a boundary, but a previous limit that you found within yourself. A lot of my methodology and what I teach is not to be so concerned with what our partners, family, friends are doing with other people. The very essence of what keeps us safe and secure is the time, both in quality and quantity, that we spend with people when they're focused with us, right? And we have very little to say or reason to be affected by their behaviors with other people, a third party. Right? It's easier said than done, but it's at the very core of what I teach.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah.
And so you and Alonda were having these conversations out of the gate rather than running into them 4, 5, 6 months in.
Yeah.
And did you find that you aligned on that?
Yeah, I think there were struggles. Like, let's talk about the struggles. So I think Yolanda thought that it would be a nice condition of our relationship if it was treated opportunistically, and not that we go hunting or effectively onto the sexual marketplace to try and find people to, cuddle.
Yeah.
So that kind of misalignment of expectation, I think we just had different libidos, different approaches to sex, totally understandable between even girls and boys, right? But it's just our personalities. That's not how we rolled. And so the edges started to fray about that, about whether we were meant to use our bed once we moved into a flat together to bring dates back to enjoy or use. She saw it maybe as more sacrosanct and personal and private, and I saw it as a functional bit of furniture, that kind of thing. So we played around with that idea, and again, I keep saying this, but it's what I teach my clients, different ways of like factorizing events or people or situations to try and understand what is the real trigger here, what's the thing that initiates more of a threat response than other factors about the whole anecdotes.
Yeah, I feel
And
like the one you just hit, I feel like really is a super great example that's like very concrete, right? You saw it as a mattress and a bed frame and a piece of furniture.
Yeah.
And for her, it was a
symbol.
It was a symbol of your relationship, of your bond. And I think this happens all over the place. We hear this with hanging Christmas lights, right? Like for one person, it's a stupid string of Christmas lights, and the other person, it's like, this is our holiday. This is huge, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So I'll tell you what I said to her, and I'm so stubborn that I've stuck by it, and now I teach it as a profession, which is there's actually a spectrum from squeaky floorboard up to squeaky bed, right? So would you have been happy with your partner using the sofa for their date, or dragging the mattress off the bed and using the mattress off the bed, or is it just the bed without the mattress, or at certain times of the day? So this is what we play with to try and really loosen things up and not ridicule people's triggers or learned behaviors, but get them to embrace them and sort of toy with them a bit. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So then we were going to parties a bit less, I think, because around, this was like 2020, 2021, 2022, Field became our favorite app. We had mentioned each other's in our profiles. I'm bi enough to enjoy heteroflexible reactions. That means effectively don't know how to say no. If someone pitches something in the heat of the moment, I don't want to bring the energy down and say, no, I'm not going to do that. I just roll with it. I'm quite open like that. And she was as well. Like mainly straight, but
I'm mainly straight, but I don't have boundaries, so I'll do whatever.
Let's talk about the no's after the event has happened. Yeah. And we used to host our own parties as well, and plenty of fun. I became quite affiliated, or like part of the scene and all the organisers of the main sort of events in London, which has changed a lot. It changes a lot year to year. I wouldn't say it's like saturated, but there's a lot going on for loads of different vibes and loads of different types of people and loads of different kinks and expectations. Glorious. Like London's a great place to do that. If getting a bit pricey. And the thing is with Field, unfortunately, it was kind of flooded with just mainstream. It's like guys who are possibly cheating or just discovered that there's loads of girls who are DTF. And it's quite seasonal as well. So then London was moving more towards like the in-person, face-to-face social scene, just to validate that if you're really inducted into this environment, then you're going to have the balls to put money down on a ticket to go and meet people face-to-face and come with whatever sort of kinky wear you see fit, and you can get away with traveling on the public underground system with a straight-faced wearing. And so it changes still, like day to day, how we use that resource, what's available to us, happening all around us with friends or new faces, right? Mm-hmm. So then Yolanda and I were with each other for 6 years, and it came to an end. And this is a lesson for everyone. And Yolanda and I don't mind talking about this. It's a huge part of my writing as well. Is that I slept with a friend, effectively, someone who was a friend first and became a sexual partner later. This person was not so inducted into the scene, but spoke a good game and wanted to go to these parties, was considering their next relationship should stay open.
Mm-hmm.
But Yolanda was particularly affected by this. So then we went to a local relationship counselor known as Roy Graff. He's quite known in the scene.
Been on the podcast.
He has.
Yeah, oh, has he? Okay,
yep.
Amazing. So he actually lives quite close to me. I'll see him at the parties occasionally. And now we are competitors in the same space, if you like, for clientele. But I teach a very different game to him. Anyway, great guy. And again, the conversations that Yolanda had and I had became effectively a little war between my very systematic and autistic way of thinking. I did get diagnosed last year, but we'll come on to that in a minute. And her very, feelings first way of processing that whole situation. It didn't help the fact that she was out of the country when me and Maria, this friend, hooked up. But we could just never really align on whether the action or the reaction was the most disproportionate based on the events. And I talk about this as well, like behaviors and triggers. Like, how do we make sure that these are proportional based on the terms and the patterns of our relationship? Like, who's out of sync here? Who's out of whack? Who's being the asshole? Right. And sometimes it doesn't matter what I think. It doesn't matter what you think. It doesn't matter what I feel. It doesn't matter what you feel. A huge part of my philosophy is like, it matters what we all feel. Like, it's a collective input that helps guide us what social etiquette is. And that means relating etiquette. And that also means non-mono relating as well. So knowing what I know about me, you, people, how we'd expect to treat and be treated, who was the one that was most out of sync. Now that sounds very like warring, us versus them, but it's not meant to be. It's just a way of checking in. It's like, am I within the realms of what we'd expect to be tolerable about how we conduct ourselves in a loving partnership?
Yeah. I think I'm just curious for you, is this sort of a way of sort of describing, like, these are roughly our relationship agreements, right? Like, what we've decided amongst us is the sandbox we roughly play in. It may not be fully aligned with your values or maybe and not even values, but like, this is how I would ideally do things, or even how the other person would ideally do them. But together you've come together and said,
Compromise.
this is the playground we're going to play on right now.
Yeah.
And that's what we're going to do and aim for. And we can always shift it, add new things, remove things if we need to.
Yeah. And of course, when you learn that your nearest and dearest is upset with your behavior, it's mortifying. Like, if you had no intent to hurt them, that's the worst thing. And then she, would maybe in the hyperbolic, volcanic first couple of days of like learning that I'd hooked up with our friend, we'd be like, oh, you must have been planning this for ages. You're clearly in love with her, blah, blah, blah. And it's like, no, we're really surprised by this reaction. Like, we thought if you'd come back and it would have been anyone else, you would have high-fived us and said, oh, you guys banged. How was it? Like, this is the typical response that we had, but it was something about this person being a friend first and maybe just a friend with benefit second after knowing them for 5, 6, 7 years. That was the trigger here. And I'm not saying this to be mean and saying she's got a lot of growing to do, but we all learn from this. This is what I do with clients, and try to get them to find these trigger points, these pressure points, right?
Yeah. Well, and and I would say in this again, I feel like is a really common thing, right? We set these agreements and then something happens and we're like, oh shit, I didn't know that needed to be part of the agreement, right? Like, she probably, Lana didn't know that like this would be hard, right? It wasn't maybe even on the radar until it's on the radar in a big way.
Right.
And then it's like too late almost.
Yes. We will all find little sub discussions that we need to have. And one really important tenet of my philosophy is that we should always be willing to listen. Like, I write a lot about, and I'll tell the next part of the story in a minute, but we should always be willing to be open-eared and open-minded about what's going on for each other. I will say that we need to be good at projecting either ourselves into different positions or ourselves into the future or ourselves into other people's bodies and say, how would I be affected if I encountered this situation? Or how would this person, knowing what they're like, be affected by this? But we can't be expected to do that perfectly all the time. We need to meet in the middle somewhere or have some grace.
Yeah. So you go and you talk about this more and try to dissect it. And it sounds like, I guess, what happens then? I won't make any assumptions.
Yeah. Well, that relationship was strained forever after that. I think it's really important that, as Gottman and Gottman say, like, successful couples don't argue less than unsuccessful ones. They just argue better. Right. And so maybe both of us weren't mature enough at that point to recognize exactly the game that was going on. So I lean a lot on nonviolent communication, or couples EFT, as well in my work, which means stripping away what the surface level devil's dance is that Sue Johnson, the sort of instigator of EFT, talks about, and like, what's actually the fear-based protest that's happening for both of you. So if we had another go at it, it would have been analyzing And EFT actually has a big attachment theory spin on it, if
Mhm.
you're familiar with that.
Mhm.
But we don't have to look at it through that lens. It's just like, what do you, when we strip away all the passion and we get down to the simpering child that has been conditioned by their primary caregiver to recognize and value a particular way of loving and being loved, what's going on there?
Mhm.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And it's
Mhm.
different for different people.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Mhm. Yeah, and so the relationship was
Sort of forever
yeah,
changed.
significantly changed in
Yeah.
that moment.
And then we bought a house together, limping on.
That'll make
This'll
it
save
better.
it. Yeah, we'll save it like this. And that didn't work, so we had a
No,
kid.
actually, no. The chronology is wrong. We had the house at that point. There are other things as well. Like, I continued to. I saw other people, casually, just friends with benefits, very practical hookups, and she always wanted to know about that before it was happening or soon after it was happening. If she found out ages later, she'd be a bit upset, and that's fine. That's a completely valid term of a relationship. I didn't need that from her, so in that way, it was needs-based asymmetrical, but it was terms-based symmetrical. And this is another huge thing that I come across as well: is people that are thrown into non-mono or even can be monogamous relationships where some people have more freedom or priority than others. And that is a recipe for disaster. That's something I shut down immediately with my clients. Shut down is quite aggressive, but work on them to untangle and sort of take a few steps back and sort of make sure that we're on even keel before we can start to build something that's like nurturing for both. So yeah, I didn't need her to tell me when she was hooking up with people, but she needed to know when I was hooking up with people. And what emerged was a little bit of, I think I found that I was less able to tell her about my friends with benefits because ever since the situation with our friend Maria, I just wasn't sure that she was on my side and really, really supporting my wants. I won't say needs. It's kind of the sexual chase is kind of a want for me rather than a need to go and hang out with other people and experience them physically. So I started to tell her about fewer encounters, and then she would find out about it or whatever, and then it would just go round. She would get angry, so it would be make me less angry, less willing to tell her about it next time, then more anger. Yeah, it was just a vicious cycle.
Yeah.
And again, this can be handled with therapy. I always say if one or two of you know how to communicate, that's the start. But sometimes you need a professional mediator to be the outside auditor.
Yeah, once you're caught in the spiral, once the spiral starts, it is hard to get out of them.
Yeah. So that came to an end. Now the real story starts.
That was just the appetizer.
I'm so excited.
So with my, new found headstrong, ultra guru experience of being, successfully non-monogamous for those 6-7 years, I was connecting deeply with a girl that I'd met on Field in sort of March 2023, who was just the most fantastically beautiful inside and out person ever. I was never tempted to explore love with anyone whilst I was with Yolanda. I'm of a way that if my heart is spoken for, then I'm just focused and like, yes, I meet plenty of amazing people, and I've got no problem telling them, in an alternative universe, you and I would have been a great match, but just that's not how it is. I'm with Yolanda. Let's keep hanging out, right? But as things were winding up with Yolanda, my heart was freeing, and I found myself attaching to other people in a more romantic way. And there were like realistically two viable objects of my love, and one of them was this dancer, Maya, we call her, and she's a cabaret artist, burlesque dancer on the scene in London, and she does like drag king and stuff. Very vibrant, very sexy, very entrancing. And so we spent more time together. Yolanda and I officially sort of called it time of death, November 2023. And Mara and I were falling for each other. And she was quite new to the sort of non-mono sphere. but was pretty confident that through mushroom trip / therapy / a bunch of relationships that didn't work, this was what she was meant to be doing. And so we vocalized our love for each other, and then it all went downhill.
Oh no!
It there was just every 2 or 3 months there'd be some strange input from her about how the relationship wasn't quite what she expected it to be. Like it was either encroaching on her rhythm, her mood, or she was getting these gut feelings that there was something wrong about it. So she would pull away for a bit and leave me very confused and also like slightly depressed each time. And then every time she came back, because inevitably she would after a couple of weeks, I was so much more happier than I was before, because we're like, yes, we've got that out of her system. Like she's come back to us, she's understood this is better than not being together. But then a few weeks later, there'd be something that would set it off, and the same kind of commentary. And then she would come back, and then off again, and come back. And each time, I don't do a lot of recreational drugs, but each time was very similar to those times when I was just like completely encapsulated and enthralled by her. And that was taking a toll even within the relationship. So I suppose we sort of declared our love for each other in like February, March 2024. And by August and September, there were enough events that I was like compromising everything about myself is the way to put it. Like I was not showing up at work properly. I was not showing up at social events. I was foregoing all my gymming, and I love video games as well, just to sort of make sure that she was happy and okay, and going to her shows and things. And eventually in September, there was a particular incident. We can go into details, although it's all in my writing, which caused her to block me on WhatsApp, and that hadn't happened before. And I'm not the kind of person, guys, that would go around a kind of communications channel block. I mean, if it's done, I'll wait for it to calmly rope, and that is the barometer I need to know if someone is okay with me, and I'm in their good books. But she never came back, and so started one of the most amazingly informative, like soul searching periods of my life. It still makes me quite emotional. The strange thing is, my job is to make people cry, but this is just such a raw thing. But very informative, and it effectively was the reason why I decided to, around the same time, it caused me to do a lot of self-reinvention. I joined the army, I got my first tattoos, I quit my job, I got LASIK, like sorted my eyes out to a great extent. I still use like anti-glare specs. And did a whole lot of reading and a whole lot of medication, a lot of therapy with different people, different professionals with different strengths, including Roy. And what I discovered was a lot about effectively the ins and outs of attachment theory and sort of other cluster B pathologies like BPD, and effectively pieced together the story of everything that happened and how it affected me so much, because I got my autism diagnosis around the same time. And one of the devilishly, double-edged, bittersweet symptoms or characteristics, and certainly one that I have, is incessant rumination, an obsession, not just with things, dinosaurs, trains, whatever, but also your own experience and meaning behind it. Yeah. So that was, what had effectively put me in a cognitive and emotional prison during and shortly after the relationship. So then I entered quite a military grade sort of autobiographic narrative exposure therapy, which is where you start writing about your experiences and trying to add some chronology and some meaning behind them. And that's how I got into writing effectively enough for like 2 or 3 dissertations that would pass as a psychotherapy submission.
Mm-hmm.
So then I was like speaking to friends about it, and they were like, you know your way around this, like not just the psychology of it, but like specifically non-mono psychology, and you just have a way to make people become okay with that world and that adventure and their own story. Have you considered doing it professionally? And I said, yeah, it's been in the back of my mind. And yeah, that's when I threw myself in. So started doing all the qualifications to become first a counsellor and now a psychotherapist in London. And yeah, love it. It's amazing to help people whilst I help myself at the same time.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I love that. And so it sounds like just in case people maybe didn't catch that, the sort of the catalyst for you to leap off into this whole, it's not even really self-discovery, like reinvention of yourself at this point was after like 6-7 months of your relationship with Maya, something happened, but she effectively blocked you, and you took that as, I'm not gonna, okay, well, let me find her on Instagram and let me find her here and let me see how I can get around this. It was just sort of like, okay, message received. So after 7 months, sort of the end of it was just you're blocked and we're done kind of thing.
Every cell in my body wanted to reach out to her and just, first of all, see what her experience was, check if she's okay. And in more sinister ways, check how much she missed me or check that she knew how much of an effect she had on me. But it doesn't, I just knew, and I could tell through reading and speaking with people who have been through this or maybe help people who have been through this, it wouldn't have helped. Like most often than not, it spells disaster. And then, of course, sort of in absentia, non habeas corpus, I was recognizing all these things. I mean, it starts often with just ChatGPT, like some therapy bot, as I call it, where you go, this in my last relationship, I noticed this, then this happened, there's this happened. Here's even a copy paste of the WhatsApp transcript, like what's going on. And you do this so many times and the same result would come back. And I'm not going to like sit here and diagnose it. That's kind of not fair. But the same things were coming up, and that led my inquisition into certain corners of psychotherapy. And now attachment theory is the prevailing and dominant and time-tested framework of how we treat each other. But effectively, I'm not saying it was her because I can't, but what I notice in clients that have a very similar compulsion is that they're wrestling with sometimes a fear of intimacy, sometimes a fear of rejection, sometimes a fear of engulfment, and sometimes a fear of abandonment. And if you have all of these, it's what's known as a disorganized attachment. And it's, yes, you can spend so much time looking at why people have it. And to give you the punchline, it's because they have a very inconsistent and neglecting primary caregiver during the formative critical window of their experience. You guys have probably read this. And what does it mean that they behave like in relationships, or they couple a growing and sincere love with a romantic partner with the very fearful, unpredictable parental love that they experienced when they were young. It sounds far-fetched, but it's observed and it's stood the test of time.
Yeah. I appreciate you explaining that in that way. It's and the impact on you.
And the more time I spent with Maya, as much as we can keep talking about it, is that yes, her childhood experience was not easy, and so I'm very attentive about that, and it mortified me. And another classic characteristic of ASD is that you are a big people pleaser, and if you are locked into that perfect storm of having someone that had a very difficult time, is also not doing so well, trying to find their feet in London, which is a big new scary place for them as a South Asian person, and you are just wanting to fall over and do everything you can to make their lives easier because that's your love language as well, or whatever. You will just end up being if they have problems like a disorganized attachment or BPD, end up being so emotionally overexposed that
Yep.
when something happens, and it inevitably did, you are left with such a long way to fall that it will, it will
Yeah.
traumatize you. It is a sort of trauma. It's an emotional abuse. It's not a known or deliberate one, but it's unfortunately categorized as emotional abuse, and it takes a long time to recover from that.
Yeah, you're you're so far out. The phrasing I've often used, like, you're so far out over you've done so much. I've given so much to try to help. I mean, I often see this as like, I view it as resentment. I see it as resentment in myself. Like, I've done all of these things to try to help and then got dropped. And the fall is a long fall at that point. If you've, like you said, you weren't showing up at work, you weren't showing up for friends, you weren't showing up for yourself, you've effectively put all of your eggs in their basket, and then the bottom falls out.
Yeah.
Like,
And this might resonate with a couple of your listeners as well. And you're probably all thinking two things. What do I do to avoid it? Or what do I do to heal from it? Well, I continue to discover and tread that path. But what we can do during the relationship is effectively avoid that emotional overexposure. So that involves a lot of revelation or discussing about what exactly we are to each other. Now, Maya wasn't a big fan of labels, and I found labels to be very grounding. Not just because of like the categorization kink of autistic people, but it's how we relate to people. And it's one of the first things I'll work on with clients. It's like, how do you describe your relationship? Now, I think a lot of your guests have come on and said, I'm poly. And I'd love to talk about that as well, because I find that to be a very problematic, in fact, not useful distinction to describe humans as poly, whether they are in, after, or before relationships. I encourage my clients to talk about whether their relationship is politically poly, as in they have terms or a rule set that invites them to discover romances with other people, with a second or a third person, or if they are structurally currently poly, as in you are in love with more than one person, and work from there. You've had a lot of people come on and talk about them reading Sex at Dawn. It's a very useful book as a sort of pop anthropology book that looks at our primate cousins, other cultures, contemporary cultures, but also historical cultures like human cultures. The more we look at this, the more we are able to sympathize with a polyamorous nature of human nature. So it's not useful for us to call ourselves polyamorous, but it is useful to describe either in our freedom or in our actual logistical structure whether we are poly, and work from there. And open is a completely different designation as well.
Sure. Yeah. Yeah. I appreciate that, Ryan. And I'm curious for you. You get cracked wide open. You sort of turn your whole world upside down professionally. Where were you tracking then relationally along with this? Were you continuing to explore non-monogamy, polyamory? What did it look like for you at this point?
If Yolanda was Act 1 and Maya was Act 2, the Act 3 was, what's my relationship to dating now that I know I can be so hurt? Now, I had lots of conflicting advice. People were saying, you just need to re-regulate, go and do some self-love, look after yourself. What do you call it? There's a special word. But, or you can jump back in, right? Go crazy, distract yourself, or prove that you are lovable by someone who speaks that language. And I opted for the latter. I never closed down my field account, whereas Yolanda and I, we're in a sort of constellation, which is where you can sort of bind your accounts to each other, and in fact, for other people. And mine looks quite healthy like that. Maya certainly wasn't into labels and not the constellation. So I went back into field in an active way. And coming into winter 2024 then, I connected with so many amazing people. Now, even the right person at the right time can do a lot to just validate you and verify that you understand your worth and that you can find an amazing connection. Like, people come out of relationships thinking, oh, I'll never find something like that again, or I will never be happy again. But of course you will. There's nothing to say apart from you were happy before. You will be happier even still, especially with the knowledge that you have, like wounds heal, right? Scars. I've got my own theories about like what scars look like on your soul, and scars are meant to be there. They're kind of beautiful in a way. But I was dating so many amazing people, and not all of them were able to keep up with my way of life. Either because they just weren't ready yet, or they had some programming that meant that there was a blocker there, but they were perfectly okay having some very kinky frequent sex, but like the non-mono thing just really wasn't playing well with them. Or they were really impatient about my healing journey, like I was just a wreck. It's difficult. Every day, just tears. So out of, a short list, effectively, it feels really bad to say I was auditioning new primary partners. One really stood out, which was Bea, we call her, and we're still together. She's born in India, but was adopted by a white Italian couple when she was like one year old. And you'd think that would have a lot of sort of things to say about her attachment patterning, but actually she's very sort of robust girl. We all have issues, and we continue to grow with each other every day. But she'd never done non-mono before, but really wanted to throw herself in, like high libido, high acceptance of like different kinks and dynamics and things. Just like, for me, just a real treasure trove of excitement and just really fun to explore with her. And she's taught me so much about myself, as I have taught her so much about herself as well. And so we go to more parties than we've ever done before. We do more group dynamics than we've ever done before. Really good. And really important for my healing as well, to just finally be in something that's so restorative and so reciprocated, that you have labels, you have words, you have just this desire to spend not every moment together, but to find that every moment is improved by each other. Like, you'd much rather have them there than not.
Yeah. And so that relationship sounds like it really shifted things for you over the last about a year and a half, right?
Yeah. So we met on Tinder again, because she wasn't really field initiated yet, in like October 2024. So only a month after Maya disappeared, and we've been together ever since. And just continue to explore and grow. Very restorative for me. People might just want to cut to the chase and say, what did you do to heal from such a damaging relationship? And unfortunately,
I've got my notepad out.
Yeah, I know. there is no cheat sheet, right? It's really time. It's really just time. And I think there are little things that will work for you and not work for you. And saying I was doing so much ruminating and research, that's just what I felt good doing. That was quite calming to my nervous system, that I wanted to patch the gaps cognitively before my heart could patch the gaps spiritually.
Yeah. And I love that you say that so much of it is time, and doing the work in that time to process and be with it, but that it takes time.
Yeah. Well, and it sounds, I think, too, what doing the work is, right? For you, it sounds like there was doing a lot of research, and that helped fill some gaps and bridge it. So, like, I think what we do at that time looks different for everybody, right? And it's not like, if you go do these 6 things in 6 months, you'll feel better. Like, it's like we have to figure out what that is for us.
Yeah. And it changed other relationships as well. Like, I would use what I learned to test. It sounds very sinister as well, and sort of malicious, but test the bounds of other relationships and sort of say, first of all, in a very just like innocent, argumentative way, like, what would you do if the same thing happened to you, kind of thing. And then find exactly, and this has been quite revelatory about like who really likes me for me, and like can put up with so much just and misdirected pain, really. There's nothing that anyone could do in a direct way apart from just be there and act as a sounding board. sometimes some harsh treatment, like cruel to be kind, is quite nice. Like you're hurting yourself there, Ryan. Like, you shouldn't be doing this kind of thing. But most people were super attentive. There's one story in the book that I'm writing where Vidya, a close friend who knew Maya as well, not that we had like big friends crossover, she just couldn't grasp attachment theory, and specifically how badly you can be affected by relationships like this. And she was like, just listen to Maya when she says that she just wasn't that into you, because there's all sorts of stories like she bumped into her in the street, and Maya went on a huge diatribe about how, being with Ryan was the worst relationship in her life, kind of thing, which is quite hard to hear even secondhand. But you sort of get a glimpse into what this person is thinking, whether they've healed, and where they're pointing the finger of blame, and how accusatory they are, and rather than sort of introspective. That's a huge part of a healing, I think, is like acknowledging your own culpability and things. And so she's like, why don't you just take Maya at her word? Like, she clearly wasn't happy with you. Just move on. Like, you must have messed up somewhere. And to be honest, if I've messed up somewhere, and we all mess up in little ways, but it will be so much easier to heal if you can look back at your, something you had tried and said, oh, I wasn't really trying that hard, or I definitely messed up here. I deserved to get an F- on that. But if you are heart and soul throwing yourself in there, and you still come up short, it's like, wow, that something's wrong here. And the only thing I can really describe it as is being cheated on. So my definition of cheating is not necessarily about who you put your dick in. It's about whether you change the rules of the game. That's literally what cheating means, is that you have these terms and these ways of conducting yourselves and treating each other. But if you suddenly flip the board and declare yourself winner by rules that we never agreed to, that's cheating. And that's the bit that really hurts. Yeah. So I lost Vidya as a friend over this. She was like, you're not listening to her. And I was like, unfortunately, I've been speaking to a lot of professionals and reading a lot of literature, and it sounds bad, but effectively these people can't be listened to. They don't even listen to themselves. In fact, they're listening to their child self, their fears, but they're not paying attention dialectically to what's going on around them. They're not saying, oh, what was the play-by-play here? Like, what is actually to blame? What systems are being stacked on top of my conditioning that are telling me that I need to react in this very vituperative, violent, volcanic way? Right, which is not good for me. It's not good for anyone. But they don't slow down to think this. They just form their own narrative around it. It's really fascinating, and that is so fascinating and so deep that that's what got me into this profession.
Yeah. Well, I appreciate you digging into it, Ryan. And I think one of the things I've loved about this conversation is that you talk a little bit about your experience and your story, like what's happened for you, and then you've clearly spent a lot of time analyzing it and theorizing on it. And I guess I just am really grateful to be able to have sort of the tie-in, right? Like, here's what happened for me. Here's what I made of that. And
I think
I really
people value that. When they find me to come and work with me, a lot of therapists don't do that disclosure thing. It's like, oh, the most I'll ever tell you about my weekend is that it was okay. Thanks very much for asking.
Yeah.
But a huge, it's a bit of a cliche to say therapists know because they've been through it most of the time. There are extra modules I haven't done yet, like addiction, grievance, and etc. But I know this story. Like, I've trod this path before. Yeah. And so if people resonate with that, then they can trust me to hold their hand, either because they're on the receiving end or because they've recognized that they are on the giving end of this, like both ways.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and there is, I will say too, there's something really powerful, and I guess in my opinion, but I think seeing it around is, I don't go to therapy to find a therapist who knows exactly how to do it all. There's a lot of power in the relational, like, I'm figuring this out too, or I stepped in all the same traps you did, and we're figuring this out together. You're in it together, right? You ideally have a little bit more maybe ability to guide around these things. You've thought about it a little bit more, but not perfect, right? Like, it's not about finding the therapist who can it's not like going to the gym and being like, well, if you do these 6 reps this many times a week, you'll get this swole. Like, it's not quite that easy for therapy.
Yeah. It's a lot about the relationship.
Yeah.
So I'm curious for today for you and Bea, that it sounds like you are still sort of using the same, I don't know, philosophy dynamic that you talked about earlier, where it's like, I'm really like in love. My heart is with this one person,
Yeah.
but you and her are also exploring and figuring out other ways to go out and explore together, individually, dating, going to events and parties. Is that sort of the vibe that you two
Yeah.
are in right now?
Yeah. I think I'm more open about different modalities of dating and romance because I meet so many more people. I'm on the front line of therapy along those lines in London, but also at parties and things, and I just speak to people more. And so we started watching couples therapy. I think in America it was on Showtime, but
Yeah.
it's being aired on BBC here. And one of the couples in Couple Therapy 4, is it the one we're on, is Josh and Loretta, and it's the throuple, what I call a polymer, by the way. Polycule is where there's sort of like more than 2 points of like connection, but they're in a sort of line, so I call that a polymer. Um,
I love it.
and Bea watches it with me, and she's like, "Oh, I could never do that. I could never do poly. Like, I think for her it just means the fear of being crowded out of someone's heart." So yeah, when I talk about this, I try to invite people to come along in this idea that love and affection are not finite, but time, energy, resources, money are finite. So again, with how we treat and expect to be treated, we're just looking at what this person does for me, and is that in keeping with our past and the terms which are meant to protect the future, right? So we have the past behind us, and that's consistent with the terms, and we're open. Everything's open to discussion and migration a little bit. But it's where we start to migrate too much, and our values and timelines don't align. That's when we get a rupture. And she just says, "No, I couldn't do it." And I think I agree. Like, I need to see the latest numbers on this, but I find that polycules, polymers, throuples, and quads, etc., are still significantly less stable than a couple, like open or otherwise. But open are, I think, statistically more stable as well. Especially apparently boy couples. I was rereading "Is Monogamy Dead" by my friend Rosie Wilby. She's a stand-up comedian in the UK. She's got 2 books. And she reminds us that girl-girl couples are less stable than girl-guy, which are less stable than guy-guy couples. But to answer your question, yeah, we just very much in love and love our sex life one-on-one, but also it's even more colourful when we invite other people into the bedroom or get invited into the bedroom as well.
Yeah. Thank you for everything you shared and for kind of just describing what you have learned and gone through and how it's impacted your individual life, your romantic partnerships, your sexual life, and also then your profession as well. And it sounds like with you and Bea, you've found kind of a place of comfort right now, and you're kind of just exploring that together.
Yeah, and it's working. I don't think we should ever get so comfortable. This is sounding super sinister, that we take everything for granted.
Yeah.
I get upset when people make promises that they can't keep. That's akin to reading the future. And if I, saw as many examples of people being able to read the future as what they seem to portray in my sessions, then I would be asking them for lottery ticket numbers. But yeah, it's just working. When you're in a relationship, I think it's hard to imagine how you could ever be out of it like that. I find love, and I'm a big romantic. I find that love is, we should never be thinking of it as an objective of what we are looking for. I don't like it when people come to me and say, "Oh, I want this. I'm looking for this," because to be looking or wanting something is to, by definition, be lacking. So I adopt a sort of Buddhist mentality or way of thinking, which is to say, I think I'm happier in this state, like I'm more compatible with this state, and so I conduct my life in a way that creates more opportunity for me to encounter, that sort of opportunity.
Yeah. I appreciate that.
Yeah, and I'm curious, just to tell people where they can find your work and
Yeah.
and how to work with you.
Yeah, so I'm in the middle of a really exciting project, which is that I am compiling a lot of my articles, some of which aren't published, but when I do publish, I put them on ryanminty.com and medium.com as well. You can find me there. Just a compilation of all these in a sort of chronology of discovery for myself. And so that chronology was linking back to effectively what happened between those three acts, so Yolanda, Maya, and Bea. And then I started writing effectively a memoir and putting that together. So that's something I want to release at some point as well. It's nearly finished. I just need help with editing. So I'm actually thinking about launching a Kickstarter, and we can give details about that at some point as well. But yeah, the Kickstarter will be live soon, and people can look out for me. I'll definitely put links to it on my site at ryanminty.com. And if people want to come and have an exploratory chat or book me for a session, then they can figure out how to do that through my website as well.
Yes.
Perfect.
Links will be in the podcast show notes for sure.
Yeah. Yeah, and maybe just to kind of put a little bow on this first part of it, because you've agreed to stick around for some bonus questions, so we'll let people know that they can go sign up for the premium subscription and get those. But to just kind of wrap up today, is there anything we haven't talked about that you wanted to put out there in the world before we let you go?
You've caught me by surprise there. There's nothing that comes to mind. I think if there's one petition I would make for people, it's that we all make decisions about our relationships and our future when we are not in an elevated state, right? So the counter way of posing that is to say, don't make huge decisions when you are activated. And I see so many people just in the heat of the moment coming out of a fresh argument, saying things that they regret or at least aren't optimal for them and their partner. So if there's one lesson I could breathe into people's minds, it's just to slow down, sleep, think, return to it later in a more measured state.
Yes.
Yep.
Take the time to regulate yourself and to be with it, for a bit.
Brilliant. Well, thank you, Ryan, again for reaching out, for coming on, for sharing everything you've done for your work. I was just very grateful to have been able to have the conversation today.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Thanks
for the invite. Really good to speak to you guys.
Yeah. And we're excited to jump over and ask you some more personal questions. We've even got, you mentioned Esther Perel. We've got Esther Perel's game. We've got some other fun games here. So we're going to go dig into it. So we'll see you over there, and we'll see you over there, listeners.
And we're back.
Perfect harmony.
Nailed it.
Unless you know anything about music and harmonies.
That wasn't
perfect.
Thank you so much, Ryan, for coming on and sharing your story. We're excited to get your story out there and send people your way. A reminder to anyone listening, you can check out all of Ryan's work over on our website in the podcast show notes.
And definitely check out the Kickstarter to support the book that is coming out soon.
And you can go and sign up.
Wow, there's more. There's always more, isn't there?
You can sign up for the premium subscription and go listen to the bonus content too.
Yep, Ryan joins us in just a moment for that. And the last thing we need to tell you, well, not quite the last thing. We always say that, and then we have lots of other things.
We're close.
Well, yeah, we're something. We need to remind you that there is a workshop tomorrow, June 11th. It is called Beyond I Do, Legal Agreements to Protect Non-Traditional Families. The workshop is led by Becky Calloway. It is going to be an incredible workshop, and in order to join it for free, you just have to be a member of our virtual community, which we told you about at the beginning of the show. You can learn more under the community tab of our website.
Also, if you happen to be listening to this and it's after June 11th and you'd really like to listen to this workshop, it is recorded and posted in our community, so you just need to join the community to go listen.
And you get access to all of our previous workshops as well. We should have told people that in the intro.
Yeah, it's okay. We told them now.
Good thing we remembered back here where there's 6 people listening.
No, I think there's more than 6.
11.
Next week.
6, 7.
Oh, God, no.
Oh, God. What's happening?
Next week.
I think I just aged backwards about 20 years.
Next week, we have an interview with Naomi. Come back and listen. We're super excited about this one as well, and we'd love to see you there.
We'll see everybody next week. Well, actually, we'll see you all tomorrow at our workshop. But then we'll see you next week.
Bye, everyone. Thanks for listening.